Hey there, it's Michael. Welcome to Whole Again, your home to discover how to navigate today's uncertainty with more mindfulness, resilience, and grace. And every now and again, I'd like to bring you amazing people. And today, I want to introduce you to Lisa Congdon. She is an artist, an author. She also has 2 total knee replacements, so she's in the TKR group that I happen to be in. She's also a badass cyclist and someone who uses her voice and her platform to create awareness and action to lift everyone's voice up so we can come together in our kintsugi spirit. We talk about a lot. Life is not linear, nor was our conversation. We talked about joy, her experience with going viral, her total knee replacements, and life as a gravel cyclist and racer. Lisa is a colorful, vibrant, energetic force. I just love her. And my hunch is you'll love her too. So if you're ready to meet Lisa, settle in and listen to how she sees joy, which is the first topic we explore together. So I would love to start with joy because we're fellow joy ambassadors, I like to think. And I heard or read somewhere that you said choosing joy in the face of hatred is radical. And I'd love for you to share more about that.
Yeah. I think that in a political climate in particular, when a lot of people feel, even people who don't sort of overtly feel oppressed in some way, but are sort of aligned with people who might feel oppressed. I think the sort of like the way that we tend to think about it is like I can't feel joy, or I'm not allowed to feel joy because people are suffering, or I'm suffering, or my people are suffering. And that's exactly the way, oppressors want you to feel, right? That they want to sort of like take the wind out of your sails so that you can't fight back. And I really I think I used to subscribe to that notion and would feel a lot of guilt when I felt joy in the face of pain or discomfort or, adversity. And now I'm realizing that it really like joy is radical especially when we're feeling and expressing joy in the face of oppression. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
especially now. Do you
hmm
see joy differently than happiness?
Yeah, I feel like happiness, I mean, I think that one can feel happy and joyful at the same time. To me, they're a little bit different. I do think both are sort of fleeting. Uh, Happiness tends to be something that we strive for, right? That like, I want to feel happy, and we really want to feel happy all the time. I think a lot of people think of happiness as something that is like a state of being, where I think most people can more easily identify with joy because it's something that we all feel, even when, things are hard, right? We could be going through something really difficult ourselves or in a relationship with somebody who's going through something really difficult, but, and we might feel really downtrodden, but we could like watch a TV show that makes us laugh or have a friend come over and tell us a story that, makes us feel um, a sense of like fulfillment. Or we could go for a bike ride and, breathe fresh air and feel a sense of joy. And the thing I love about joy is it's like something that if we allow ourselves to, we can really feel like just feel it at any time. And I think a lot of times we think of emotions as being really binary, right? Like you're either happy or sad, or you're joyful or downtrodden. And I think to the extent that we can think about emotions as like coexisting alongside each other, and just because you feel one doesn't mean you can't feel the other, I think makes for like a healthier perspective on life.
I agree. I think our emotions are a little bit like a 7-layer dip. Like we
Mhm.
can feel grief and we can feel joy and we can feel other emotions all at one time. As you were talking about happiness, this week I'm watching the Ken Burns documentary on the
Mm,
American Revolution. And I've wondered as I've gone through the episodes, if you will, uh, what the happiness industrial complex would look like if Thomas Jefferson didn't put in the pursuit of happiness. Like, I wonder,
mm,
like, if he chose different words, like,
mm,
would we still be pursuing happiness in the way that we do? I
mm,
don't know. Uh,
mm,
Questions I ponder when I'm out on a bike ride, which we will get to because it's a source of joy for both of us. As an artist, since we often experience life through our senses, or we do experience life through all of our senses. To you, does when you think about this, your senses and joy, does joy have a color? Does it have a texture? Does it
mm.
have a does it have a weight?
I don't know that it has. It's interesting. I know there is like a condition where you actually think of things in terms of colors.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Synesthesia or something like
Yeah,
that?
something like that.
Um,
I do
yeah,
not have
I
that, but
I don't
I'm
have
just
it either.
yeah.
Um, interestingly, I actually have a friend who lives in Massachusetts, and she's visiting Portland right now, and I'm gonna see her tomorrow. I'll ask her more about it, but, um, I for me, joy is, like, it is definitely a brightness, and a sense of levity. I was on a bike ride this morning, and it was, like, a rare sort of dry, beautiful morning. I mean, we have dry, beautiful mornings all the time, but not necessarily in November,
Yes, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. It's the gray, rainy season in the Pacific Northwest, usually, right?
yes, and today is off and on sun, which is actually pretty typical for here. Like, um, you'll see rain in the forecast, and rarely does that mean it's actually going to rain all day. Oftentimes, the sun comes out and there's lots of rainbows. It's pretty magical. But I was on one of those, fall morning bike rides. It was about 40 degrees, so it was pretty cold, but the sun was out at 7:30 in the morning, and I was really feeling a lot of joy. And for me, it's just like a deep sense, I think, in my chest, and which is, I think, where I carry a lot of stress when I am kind of anxious about certain things in my life or worried about my day in some way. And I keep a journal, so I every morning while I'm drinking my coffee and eating my breakfast before I go on a bike ride or go to the gym or start my work day, I write. Not a lot, but at least a page. And I have been feeling, a lot of stress lately. It's about to be the holidays. I run a retail business. The economy is a little bit, slow right now. And like, how's this all gonna, you know, turn out? And sometimes I make a gratitude list, and I did that today. And I was thinking about, and this it was still dark out and I hadn't left on my bike ride yet, but I was thinking about how grateful I am that I have this tool in my life. I mean, I have a lot of tools, art included, but that I can rely on when I'm, having a sense of overwhelm about either my own life or about what's going on in the world, that I can just go feel freedom and joy um, for an hour or two before I start my day. And how lucky I am to get to do that, because it really does like um jumpstart my day. I don't actually get to work until 9:30 or 10, because even though I get up really early, because I prioritize riding my bike a few mornings a week. And my employees are really amazing, and they know that even though Lisa doesn't get in until like an hour after they do, that it's time well spent, because I'm always in a better mood
Yeah, absolutely.
than I
They
would
know
be
that
otherwise.
the boss needs the bike ride to
Yeah.
feel better. And if the whole day goes better, if Lisa can
Right.
have a bike
Everybody
ride.
benefits. Everybody benefits.
Hey, that's how I feel about life. I do believe the world would be more peaceful if more people just rode their bike more.
Yeah,
I think that
exactly.
there would be more
I do.
loving and more
Yeah.
freedom.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
just be generally better if more people
Yeah.
rode bikes.
I agree.
Well, so I think for me, joy is like a Fanta orange pop. It's
Mm.
the color orange. It has the effervescence of a soda. There's citrus. So to
Mm.
me, like that's
A little bite to it.
a
Yeah.
little bit. There's a little tang. It's that's to me that's joy. When I think of you, I think of pink and all your art, and I want to
Mhm.
talk a little bit more about your art. When you think about this time that we're going through, and
Mhm.
with this podcast, I use kintsugi as a metaphor for when we have brokenness or we've separated, and generally in society, I think we can all agree that we're divided and we're not together, and we can
Mhm.
find a way to come together. We can repair and come into a different form of beauty. Right, the original vessel could have been really beautiful, but we highlight our scars and we celebrate those as symbols of
Mhm.
our strength and resilience. So I wondered, like, from your perspective as an artist, how do you think art can help us in these moments where, like, we are struggling? And is it a balm or a tonic, if you will, to help us heal or help us come together? And I would just love
Yeah,
to
I
hear your
mean,
perspective.
oh gosh. I mean, I think on a micro level for me personally, yes, it's definitely a balm. Um, I feel so lucky that I both have this thing that I can do and that I can do without struggle because, a lot of anybody can sit down and make art, but I think for a lot of people, like their idea of what they want to make and their skills are so vastly different that sitting down to make art is actually kind of stressful for them because, inherently, like in the creative process, you go through a period of struggle when you're just trying to figure out who you are and what your skills are and practicing and all of that. But I'm like so far past that for me, I get to actually like sit down and have the satisfaction on a hard day of like creating something that I like and that I think might actually bring other people joy or some revelation. And which leads me to, I think the other part of art that is like kind of on a more meta level is like, I feel also really lucky that I have this tool where I can make things um, that s you know, that express how I'm feeling, and sometimes that's, like, the angst that I'm feeling, and sometimes that's the joy that I'm feeling, and sometimes it's messages around, things that are important to me, and I have this tool that I can use to, like, express those things and share them with other people, and, I also have a platform on social media, and so there's that other layer of it that, like, I I get to make these things. Making these things always feels good to me, and then I get to then share those things with the world, and I get to express myself, and people pay attention to what I say, and so I feel like I can make a difference, and I don't take that for granted. I think a lot of people right now want to, be part of the conversation around the division, um, in at least in our country or they want to express something and I think for those of us who are creatives like we have all of these some people have music and some people have poetry and I have art right and like we get to make things that express sort of how we're feeling about what's happening and encourage people to build community and to um to show up for whatever is important to them. And I I'm so grateful that I have that because I see people in my life who don't have those tools and I think they feel sort of lost, like they don't know what to do. And I don't not that there's not anything they could do, but I feel grateful that I have art right now. It's made a huge difference in how I cope and also how I show up.
Yeah, and how you express your voice, and I see your art
Yeah.
as a way of bringing people together so people can feel connected and less lonely. And through a lot of the work people have done through the protests over the last year, there's been a great sense of community. Like, I'm not alone in my thinking. I'm not
Mhm.
just someone with a phone or a computer um, reacting to what's happening in the world. Like there are others.
Mhm.
There are others around me that are like-hearted, and maybe not necessarily the same perspective. They're not like-minded, but like-hearted, and I don't feel so alone that we can do something together. And I think your art,
Mhm.
in particular, can be that connection
Mhm.
that speaks to people and can okay, like we can rally around this community, and hopefully people have other communities as well uh, to um, to offer them support. So when
Yeah,
you,
it's so
yeah,
important.
yeah, go for it.
No, I was gonna say it's so important right now. I think so many people feel like, I'm under attack, or people in this particular group are being, marginalized, and they feel so powerless. And when we come together in community, even if all we're saying is like, this is not okay, like
Yeah,
there's a sense of empowerment in that. And I think that's so important.
yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it's not okay, and I see you. Like
And I see you. Yeah.
I see you, and I hear you, and I dare I say I love you. Human to human. I appreciate you. A lot of times in the circles I dance in corporate America, the word love isn't necessarily thrown around a lot, but like,
Mhm.
human to human, I think it should, but human, human, like we can love each other, even though we may not
Mhm.
necessarily see the world the same way. And,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
that's the stuff that brings us together. So as an artist, you started before these damn phones, right? So
Yes.
and I know you were an early adopter to Instagram. And if you ask a lot of creatives today, there's this like maybe a push to like go viral, like, have people find out about your work. And I was wondering, like, what was that like for you? Like you came into this profession as an artist maybe a little bit later in life in your 30s, right? So, and before Instagram was a thing, and before going viral was probably a thing that
Mhm.
we talk about. When that happened for you, when people really first started noticing your work, I imagine there was just a flood of people coming into your life. And
Mhm.
I wondered, like, how did that play with the conversation that you have with yourself, and just the pressure, and just that, like, that new level that you found yourself in, what probably felt like overnight.
Yeah, it definitely happened pretty fast. I mean, that part happened fast. I think the growth to it was pretty normal paced. Um, but it's interesting, like, haven't, quote, "gone viral" in a few years, and I honestly don't miss it. It's okay with I'm okay with that. I mean, every now and again, it's kind of fun, to see what happens, and, what famous person reposts what you've posted or whatever, but it used to happen to me more often, and Instagram's changed, and that's part of it. Like, I don't make videos really very often, and, like, it used to be that, before videos even existed on Instagram, you would, mostly just post still photos, or, I was posting my artwork. And a lot of my work, for people who aren't familiar, has messages in it. And every now and again, I would post something that just resonated for a critical mass of people. And so it just got shared a bazillion times, and then sometimes by famous people. And then, and I think that, obviously there's like an effect, there's an impact. So, my following on Instagram grew very fast in a very short period of time. And it's pretty much leveled off in the last few years since the algorithm has changed. I still have a lot of followers, but it hasn't grown. And it was just like growing exponentially. And every time I had a viral moment, sometimes overnight, I would have tens of thousands of more followers than I had had the day before. And I think what's so interesting about that is that, um, it really can feel very vulnerable when that happens because you have all of these people who are new to you and your work and, um, they're sort of like, I forget sometimes that as many people look at my work or, the things I post on Instagram as they do. I think if I really thought about it, it would freak me out. One time I was at a conference and my wife was there with me and she was talking to one of the editors from a publisher that I've worked with before. And I was about to give a talk and she said, um, at the time, I think this was a while ago. I have almost 500,000 followers now, but this was before I had like really gained a big following. And she's like, Lisa has like 100,000 followers. That's like two stadiums full of people. Right. And like I had never visualized the number of people before. And that, she said this to my wife, who then shared the story with me. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of people, and now it's, four times that much. But um but I think part of the reason I don't think about it is it's a little overwhelming to think about like all of these people sort of knowing, feeling like they know you sometimes because while I post my artwork, I also post stories about my life and things that I'm going through and very personal journeys. I had cancer a few years ago. I had total knee replacements last year, two of them. I have, gone through some, other ups and downs in my life and career and shared about them. And, sometimes I'll be walking down the street or walking through the grocery store. And this has happened to me all over the country, even all over the world. And people will come up to me and say, "Are you Lisa?" And 100% of the time, it's always positive. People are so lovely and like, "Oh, I'm a huge fan," or "I really love your work," or, "You've really inspired me." And that feels really good. Fortunately for me, it's been really, all my viral moments sort of led up to some very positive feelings and interactions. And I think the people who are drawn to my work are generally people who share similar values. And so, of course, we're going to resonate with each other. And that's all great. But yeah, sometimes it can feel overwhelming. And also, there have been times when I have gotten, you know, um, there's been a lot of discourse on my Instagram feed about certain topics that I've posted, and things are happening because of um, you know, what I'm saying or my proximity to an issue, and debates break out, not necessarily between me and the people who are commenting, but between people commenting. And it's like, what is happening? What is going on? Sometimes it's really surreal. It doesn't happen to me as much as it did. I went through a period of about 5 years where things like grew very fast. I had a ton of engagement and a lot happening. And that, as much as it's hard that Instagram algorithm has changed, it's also good because there's just less, happening. And that's fine with me. I'm an introvert, so I don't necessarily need to be engaging with people all the time.
Yeah, a good cyclist as an introvert. Imagine that. So like a little bit of alone time. Thanks for sharing that. Just you know, y- your work, speaks to so many people. Like one of my favorite sayings from your work is "keep going."
Yeah.
And so I have every one of my books. I sign it "Keep pedaling" because
Mm.
as I learned how to mountain bike back in the day before suspension and all the tricked
Hmm.
out mountain bikes, I was learning how to get through like creek beds and river beds and rocks and whatnot. And the old wise cyclist in my college town who was teaching us kids how to mountain bike, he said, just remember to keep pedaling, right? And so if there's an
Hmm.
obstacle, uh, your natural inclination will be to stop pedaling and try to get over it. Whatever you do, do not do that. Keep pedaling. Like that's the
I mean, I
way.
think
Sort
cycling
of.
is such a great metaphor for life. Like, I'm actually about to leave on one a week from Sunday. I'm going to a training camp, but these training camps have a lot of skills work in them. And in Oregon, in Central Oregon and Eastern Oregon, we have a lot of sand. And actually, I'm about to go to Arizona to a training camp where there's also a lot of sand. And right, as you probably know, riding through sand is another situation where if you do not keep pedaling, you will fall. And I literally say that to myself, keep pedaling, keep pedaling, keep pedaling. So
Yes.
I do think it is just like a great metaphor for life.
No, I often say that with all due respect to all the Ted Lasso fans out there and the line that, soccer is life. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, cycling is life. We do it
Yeah, I actually have a
outside.
tattoo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, go for
I
it.
have a
Yeah.
tattoo on my leg that says bikes are life, which,
Yeah,
similar.
absolutely. Yeah. We're out there in the elements and the sun and the rain and the wind and the snow and the ups and the downs and the twists and the turns. And we're
Hmm.
basically naked except for a thin layer of lycra with just a styrofoam helmet to protect us.
Hmm.
It's real life, and you have to find a way through, to get to whatever destination you're pedaling to. So I love to talk more about cycling with you. So when was it that you became a cyclist? Do you remember?
Yeah. So in about 1998 or late 1997, a friend of mine, so I was about 29 or 30 years old. I was born in 1968, so it's
You're
about
a fellow
30.
Gen Xer with me. We're Gen
Yes,
X
yeah, we're
peeps.
Gen X.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine, was dating somebody who was doing what was then called the California AIDS ride, and it was a organized ride where you rode from San Francisco to LA, and it was like 2,000 people did it. It was a huge fundraiser, all supported, and everybody raised money. So I'm going to ride, almost 600 miles to LA, sponsor me. We raised tons of money for both the the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and the LGBTQ Center in LA. And I did that so he was like, do you want to, I'm going to do it because this person I'm dating is doing it. Do you want to do it too? And I was like, sure. So, I had to get a bike. So I went and bought a road bike and clip in pedals and a helmet. And, I just, went out. I remember going out on my first training ride and like falling because I didn't understand how to clip in and out properly.
The rite of
But
passage of every
yeah,
cyclist out
for
there.
every cyclist, that's right. I got really into it and loved it. Um, and then of course the event ended and I didn't get on a bike again. I think, I rode on and off for a little bit, but I like really kind of, um, just abandoned the bike after that. And then I got into a relationship a few years later with the person I'm now married to, and she was a cyclist. And so, ended up, she's like, do you ride a bike? And I said, well, I used to. I didn't had At that point I had sold my bike. Um, and so she bought me like this $500 bike from her neighbor. It was like a Trek aluminum frame or steel frame. It was pretty heavy, but it fit me perfectly. And we started going on bike rides together. And I got like really into it. And within like 4 months, I was like, this bike is too heavy. I love this too much. Climbing is too hard on this bike. So I went and bought a a carbon frame bike. And that was the bike I had for like another 10 years until I don't know, about probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And until I upgraded. And now I'm on like, now I'm like several bike iterations later because of course I had to buy a gravel bike. That was a
Of
road bike.
course. Of course.
Um, but anyways, we started riding together. We ended up doing the what was then called the California AIDS Life Cycle again, and I continued to ride. And then we moved to Portland in 2015, And we both really struggled initially to find a cycling community here, which seems crazy to me now because like I literally know almost every cyclist who lives in this city and ride with half of them. I'm very involved in the community here, but like at the time we didn't know anybody. And I also think during the pandemic, a lot of community built around cycling that didn't exist before. But eventually we found this women's club that we joined, and neither of us are part of it anymore, but it was a really great place for us to like get to know other women who rode, and they led group rides on Saturdays. We ended up becoming really involved in that group for a while. And then I got so into cycling when I was on that in that club that I just was like, I'm going to start competing, which was kind of crazy. I was in my early 50s at the time, and I was like, this is crazy that I'm like, 50 and I'm thinking about racing. I had never raced before in my life, and but I had these role models. So there was other women on my team who were my age, and some of them even older, who were racing some cyclocross, not too much gravel at the time, but some road racing. And so then I just, kind of like started training more, especially during the pandemic. And I got a gravel bike because that was like what everybody was doing. And I went off and did like 2 gravel races. I had no idea what I was doing. In fact, I signed up for this pretty epic race, which is pretty well known now. It's called Oregon Trail Gravel Grinder, and it's a 5-day stage race that's like 350 miles through the Cascades of Oregon and super technical. I had no business doing that race, but I signed up for it and I somehow did it during a year where we had a heat dome. So it was like 100 degrees. It was like how I survived that. I have no idea, but that was the place where I met so many people who are now close friends of mine, because you're in this sort of like incubator together where you're going through this really stressful thing, but it's also really fun. And the woman who now coaches me, I met there and or through that race, and it was kind of the beginning for me. And I just got really, really devoted to cycling, started finding all kinds of joy in it, community in it, and got really involved in the cycling community. I ended up leaving the women's club team that I was on, and I joined a racing team for a couple of years. And yeah, so it started way back in 1998, but then there was a huge hiatus, and I really would say that I I kind of got into cycling back in 2018 when I was 50. So I've been at it pretty hardcore for 8 years.
That is so awesome. I know that Oregon Grinder gravel race.
Yeah.
That is epic as one of your first races.
Yeah,
It's
I know. I
like
did it again the next year too.
that's
And
like
then I've
not
been
that's
several years
nuts.
to like, yeah,
Yeah.
like I also have gone every year since then to support my coach who is an elite racer, and I drive her van from point to point, um, because it's a point to point race. But it's been such an amazing experience being part of that race. And I think they're going to do it they're only going to hold it for another few years, but I am going to do it one more time before the race is no more because I feel like I have to. So now that I have
Absolutely.
new knees, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I want to ask you about your new knees because I saw your post about your new knees and going up a particular hill in Portland that I know of, but I haven't been up. I've ridden through the whole state of Oregon.
Hmm.
When I rode across the country, it rained every day while I was in Oregon. Just for the record,
Sorry.
every stinking day, I was
That does not
soaked
surprise me.
until I got to Idaho, and then the sun came out. So, but it was an epic trip. So,
Hmm.
so you went and you were basically an overachiever. You decided to get both
Hmm.
knees redone.
Yeah.
Um, so tell us a little bit about that experience because as a podcast we talk about resilience, we talk about healing, and I also have my left knee as a total knee replacement. We're part of a club of younger total knee replacement
Hmm.
people, right? And so I'd love
Hmm.
for you to share what you feel comfortable sharing about that experience.
Yeah. So I yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? No, yesterday I went to the surgeon for my 1 year checkup for both my
Oh,
knees. I
good.
got them
Awesome.
x-rayed. He
Yeah.
told me I never had to come back again unless I had a problem, which I took as a good sign. So about a year ago, so my first knee replacement was on October 31st, and my second knee replacement was on December 19th. So I haven't quite gotten to the year point
Gotcha.
for my right knee. But I knew a couple people, other cyclists who had had knee replacements, and they had done them like 9 months apart, thinking, "Hey, I'm going to get one done. I'm going to get back on the bike within 3 months. I'm going to ride for 6 months and get back in shape, and then I'll have the other one done." But it didn't. But it didn't quite work out that way. They were like the healing. It's not like after 3 months you're like, okay, I'm all healed. I'm going to get back on the bike and start training. Like I'm at a year for both my knees, and I'm still dealing with some stiffness and a little bit of pain. Like it's not a clean trajectory, and I think they didn't realize that. And one of them said to me, if I could do it over again, I would have them done closer together because you're already laid out. You might as well just go through the whole thing together if you have to have both knees. And my right knee was pretty messed up because I had a skiing accident when I was 17 where I tore my MCL. So I still have they didn't even remove the pin when they did my knee replacement um for that surgery. And then, there was all kinds of um, osteoarthritis, and I've had arthritis in that knee since I was in my 30s because of the knee injury when I was a teenager, and so I've sort of known that I always was going to have my right knee replaced. And then during the pandemic, I slipped and fell walking down like carpeted stairs in sock feet and tore my meniscus. And because it was pandemic, they were like, "Well, you can have surgery, but it's going to be a couple months before we can get you in because we're only taking like, you know, really extreme cases right now." And they're like, by that point, it's going to heal on its own. But it never really did heal well, and that might be partly because I like stayed off the bike for 3 weeks and then got back on, and I probably messed it up. So at the end of the day, they had to replace both knees because very quickly my left knee became very arthritic because of the meniscus tear that never healed properly. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to do them both. And I run a business with, 3 employees, and because I planned so far in advance, the runway to getting everything in my business with all of my clients and everything ready for me to take 3 months off for both surgeries just kind of fell into place. And I have a really amazing team of people who work for me, and they held down the fort while I was out. I did come in a little bit here and there during between surgeries as I started to feel better and could drive. And we had some Zoom meetings and staff meetings and things. So it wasn't like completely out of the loop, but I basically took the time off and went to physical therapy, which I like called literal torture because, basically
Yeah.
you're
Well, PT equals pain and torture, as you know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point in physical therapy with your knee, like your number one job is to like bend your knee again. And it's really, really painful and acutely painful in the first 3 or 4 weeks. So you have to go and force yourself to do it. And you got to do these exercises at home. And so that was really my number one job. And my doctor was really clear that like I couldn't get back on my bike. I could ride my trainer as long as I could bend my knee enough, and I could, do stationary bike as much as I wanted, but I couldn't ride outside for 3 months after my second surgery. So on March 19th, which was 3 months after my second surgery, or maybe it was like the 20th or 21st, I don't know, but like approximately 3 months later, I got on my bike, clipped in, and rode with my friend. And I was really like out of shape. I had been back on my trainer for a while, but I wasn't doing anything intense. And from there, I just started the like rebuilding process. Not just, getting my cardiovascular fitness back, because by that point, I had been off the bike for like 5 months. Um, at that point, I was back to work and everything, but I just wasn't riding outside. And then once my knees were stable enough, I got on the bike and and started training. And I went to Unbound at the end of May and raced the 57-mile race. I was very lucky that my friend Yuri Hoswald, who's actually a former winner of that race, um, he pulled me through the entire 57-mile race. So I actually did decently, but only because I had this giant guy like pulling me through the winds of the Flint Hills, you know. Um, so that was really fun for me. I was pretty cooked when I was done, but it was fun. And then I just kept training and training and training and training. And I'm lucky. I have a coach. I'm on a training plan, and we slowly built my aerobic base again. And in the last 2 months, I've been back to doing like more structured training and VO2 max efforts and stuff. And my fitness jumped between June and August like pretty exponentially fast. And now it's sort of plateauing and my gains are pretty marginal at this point. But it feels really good to be back on the bike and to be like not just back on the bike. I've been back on the bike for a while, but to be riding with my friends and not having to like have them wait for me at the top of the hill kind of thing, you know. I raced Rebecca's Private Idaho in August, which felt really fun. Still really hard because it was at, it's the elevation in Ketchum is like
Yeah, like
9,000 feet.
9,000
So
feet. Yeah, yeah. It's pretty,
yeah,
pretty
it was
intense.
brutal. It was brutal. But super fun. And yeah, I've just been working really hard to like get back to where I was before. And my knees, like I can do things on the bike that I couldn't do, that I haven't been able to do for a while because I was in so much pain before
Yeah.
the surgery and right after the surgery as well. But now my pain is pretty minimal, if none, and I can stand while I'm climbing again. I can hammer. So it feels great, and I'm so happy to be on the other side of that journey. So the ride that you were referring to earlier, it just so happened, this was not planned, but just so happened on the 1 year anniversary of my left knee replacement. My was a Friday, and my coach assigned me repeats on Thompson, which is this hill in West Southwest Portland that is it's not super steep, but it's like a for me 12-minute climb, but she wanted me to go as hard as I could 4 times. So you climb and then you come back down and climb it. And I had only ever done it repeats of 3, but like I texted her in the morning and I was like, I am so stoked that I get to climb Thompson 4 times on the anniversary of my knee replacement. And she was like, we are a weird breed, aren't we? I was like, yes. That was the thing I was excited to do, was I actually think is pretty funny, but um it was it was pretty horrible actually. But after I was done, it's like type 2 fun, you just
Oh,
are like,
totally. It's like
you know,
it's an ultimate
I did
joy,
that.
and you're
Yeah.
stoked, and you feel good about what you've been able to get through. And yeah, to your coach's
Hmm.
point of view, yeah, we are weird as shit. Like we are messed up, and
Yeah.
in such a beautiful way. And I love it. I love what you've been able to do. Now, I will give you some encouragement because I am 4 years out from
Okay.
my total knee replacement, that you will still be able to have incremental gains even that far out if you
Okay.
stay on it, which I know you will. So I'm still getting gains out of mine and building mainly strength, although I'm right now recovering from a femur fracture. I broke my femur in 5 places because I got clotheslined by a
Mm.
utility cable.
Oh,
So I am working through that, but you still you can
that's
do
great to
this
hear.
and to anyone else listening, like you can have so much great functionality with a total knee replacement, and you'll have it, and then you'll start to say to yourself, why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things. So I rode across the country, as I mentioned
Mm.
earlier, with my my year anniversary was somewhere in Kansas as I was riding across the
Oh, how
country with it. So
cool.
yeah, it was like a big sort of celebratory moment. It was like, oh yes,
Love
and
that.
just like
That's awesome.
celebrating that scar. So when you run into a person that has a total knee replacement, the scar is is telling. We know it right away when we see it. We're like, oh yeah, you have a story, and I know
I
what you
was
went through.
waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was waiting in line for the time trial at Rebecca's Private Idaho, RPI, in August. And because they were sending us off in like, 10-second increments or minute increments, whatever it was. And the guy in front of me, I looked down and I was like, you had a double knee replacement. And he looked at me and he's like, so did you. And so we literally talked for the next 15 minutes that we were in line, swapping stories and then I passed him on the time trial, which made me really, we were the
Oh,
same
that's
age
even
too. But
better. That's
I
even
know, I
better.
was like,
That's even better. You
I,
you passed out another white dude,
I
like,
know I passed another white dude. He,
which
he
is
was
like,
like,
yeah.
yeah, I know. Another middle-aged white dude. He was also further out from his knee replacements than I was. So I just thought that was funny, but I cheered him on as I passed him, of course.
Of course, you want
But
to be
yeah,
nice
it
and
was,
kind.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
But yeah, that was funny.
you're not a white dude because the white dude would probably not say anything, right, as they passed. Like, we need more kindness in the sport. And I want to finish up our conversation, sort of on this topic as far as the state of the health of the peloton, if you will. So, as we're joking here, this sport that we both love and we both share is pretty much like a bunch of white middle-aged guys, right? With enough money to buy toys and
Right.
fancy
Fleet of bikes.
wheels. A
Yeah.
fleet of bikes. It's like, well, what bike do I want to ride today, right? So, and I know part of your work is, you know, and your message too is trying to diversify the peloton to uh, have it be more inclusive, more diverse. Some of the work I do, I sponsor a team here in New York City. It's the largest um, team for women in the LGBTQ plus community and the transgender
Mhm.
community, because I just believe, like, in life, going back to cycling is life. In life, we're just better when we have more diversity and inclusion.
Mhm.
Like, the Peloton
Mhm.
just works better. And I would love for you to share, like, your perspective of cycling as a sport, and up until now, really the lack of diversity, and
Mhm.
in hopes that we can make it more diverse going forward.
Yeah, I think it's really changing, and I think in particular in the gravel scene, I think because gravel is sort of like it's changing because, now anytime anything becomes a thing, people start
Yeah.
taking it seriously, and then the UCI gets involved and starts, making rules and stuff. But the spirit of gravel is like mass start. Everybody starts at the same time. I know this is changing, but like the spirit of it is mass start. Um, it's like the mullet. They call it the mullet analogy, which is like business in the front, party in the
Fun party in
back.
the
So
back,
like,
yeah.
yeah. So like, you know, you can go on a gravel race like and be so slow, but as long as you finish, or even if you don't finish, a sag wagon picks you up, whatever. Like you're out. The whole point is to have fun and stop at the aid stations um and that's part of what I love about gravel, and that's part of what even though I often race, like, I'm not necessarily in the front, but I'm racing. I'm not stopping, I'm, like, training, I'm trying to win my age group or whatever. I I appreciate that other people around me are having a party, and I think part of what has made the party in gravel so cool is, this emphasis on, like, everyone is welcome. And there are people in the space who are big voices for that. So, like Marley Blonsky, who founded All Bodies on Bikes, uh, and folks like Abby Robbins, Queer Gravel, talking about getting more non-binary and trans people on bikes and getting those categories in bike races, um, fighting for inclusion and other cycling clubs who are specifically for BIPOC folks. And I think whatever we can do to support those organizations, just like you're doing, um, and give them the space and the resources they need to thrive, the better the sport is going to be. And um, I think that, road cycling is sort of, you know, I don't know, dying in the United States, as they say. Um,
Dead.
it's dead. Yeah. I do think mountain biking and gravel cycling are still alive and well, and in those spaces, and I think in particularly in gravel, um, there's just been so much effort toward inclusion and education and getting more people on bikes and supporting people who can't necessarily afford the equipment, what they need. And I love being part of that because I've met some really amazing people, done some amazing fundraisers to support those groups, and it just like sort of gives me hope about the future. Like I said, like I feel like cycling is such a great sort of microcosm of like what's happening in the rest of the world, and it's a space where it kind of sometimes it feels like utopia to me. I know there are problems and there are issues and people who are being left out and things that are happening, especially as like the sport becomes more serious, like it becomes more exclusionary. So I don't want to sugarcoat it, but of any of the sports spaces that I've ever been in my life, it does feel like the most inclusive. We still have a long way to go, and it feels really good to be part of that and to support that work.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it feels a bit like mountain biking was in, say,
Mm,
I would say the like early 90s.
mm,
Um, it's still got that grassroots. We're by the campfire. We're all muddy and dirty, and we breathe all the gravel into our lungs, and we're hanging out having, you know, a beverage or a s'more, and there's good camaraderie and the whole thing. That said, to your point, it's still not as inclusive as it could be, cycling in general. And I think my biggest worry is that when the money starts to flow into gravel, then how does it change? Like we've seen other parts of our sport change when the money starts coming in. I hope we can be somewhat anticipatory and be really intentional about like making sure that we create or keep the vibe and the community aspect of it. Certainly, you know, um, the popularity will grow, which is good because people want to get off the roads because of safety or maybe just getting deeper into nature. And I love the fact that they are. I love Zwift as an option for people, but I do believe like cycling was meant to be outdoors
mhm,
in the elements.
mhm.
Yeah, I love the fact that it's gravel has gained in such great popularity, and I hope we can stay true to its spirit
Yeah.
as it scales and as it grows. So, um, thank you so much for
Oh, you're
joining me
welcome.
here. I You mentioned hope in your last response there, as it relates to cycling. So as we sit here, it's almost the end of 2025, we're looking into 2026, which will be another big year for
Mhm.
our society, for the U.S. I was hoping that you could leave us with a message of hope. Like
Mm.
what keeps you hopeful and optimistic about the future as we pedal forward?
Yeah, I think that um, I actually was found what I've found the most hopeful is really just stuff that's happened in the last month, which is, um, I mean, I think a lot of the No Kings protests that have been happening around the country, make me believe that we are like that people who normally um, were more complacent or felt um, some even not overt sense of privilege. Like, I don't think people sit around thinking I'm privileged, but like, oh, this thing doesn't affect me. Now realize that the thing is affecting them and that they're willing to to stand up and that that movement is growing. And I think that that gives me hope. I think the midterm elections give me hope that that people who are, are willing to show up for humanity and for things that, and for the humanity of other people, even if things don't affect them directly. And I think people are becoming less complacent, and that gives me hope.
I love that. That's a good way to end. I do believe, the last several weeks has shown that we can start coming together, that it is possible.
Hmm.
We
Yeah,
can.
and like we might
Yeah.
disagree about things, but
Yeah.
we can be united about like where we want this country to head. So
Yeah.
that
We
feels
just,
hopeful to me.
the values of how we treat each other
Hmm.
without being cruel, without dehumanizing,
Hmm.
and
That's right.
finding a way to lean in. It's going to be difficult. There's not going to be a magic pill. There's not going to be a special fruit to put in our acai bowl that's going to make it all go away. We're going to have to lean in. And if we want community, we're going to have to put in the work, put in the sweat equity to make it happen. But I believe it's within us. I believe we're strong enough to do it. So, well, Lisa, thank you. Keep pedaling. And I hope one day in the future, I'll be able to turn the pedals with you. So thanks
I
for
know that
being
would be
on.
so much fun. Thank you so much, Michael.
There are many podcasts out there that also release their episodes in video, almost like a TV talk show. But here on Whole Again, I try to keep it old school, just the audio. But with Lisa, I am compelled to find a way to turn some of our video into reels or YouTube shorts because her aesthetic is so damn awesome. I love her bold aesthetic and style, her overall look, plus her heart, her care, her determination, her courage to pivot, her openness, her vulnerability. I love it all. And I hope you did as well. I hope you took a couple different lessons from Lisa and her story. I'll include her website's link in the show notes because, after all, it's a podcast and it needs show notes. I know I plan to pick up many gifts from her shop for the holidays, and I hope you'll join me in that. We need to support our artists because art is so essential when things feel so uncertain. We can look to the artists to give us comfort, hope, optimism, joy. And Lisa is definitely one of those people, and I hope you agree. So thanks for listening. And as always, thanks for being part of our community and being here and showing up and making a difference. If you haven't yet signed up for the free supportive text messages I send out about 3 times a week, you can text me Whole Again to 866-612-4604 and I'll set you up. And if you wish to learn more about creating beautiful ripples and how to prevent a bad moment from turning into a bad day, please visit my website, michaelobrienshift.com, and sign up for my newsletter called The Ripple Effect. And join us each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here at Whole Again and discover how you can heal, grow, and become more resilient. And celebrate our scars as golden symbols of strength and resilience. Until then, remember, you can always come back to your breath. You've got this, and we've got you.